If your mind loves to ruminate, keep watching because I have a skill that might help bring some ease to the ruminating mind. Essentially, ruminating is when the mind just keeps playing something over and over and over again. The mind could ruminate on a thought, a conversation, an experience, a behavior, a feeling, numbers. It really depends on the person. But if you're struggling with it, keep watching because I have a skill that has been so helpful for me, and I hope that it can be helpful for you as well. So about 3 years ago, I sat down to write a blog post. The blog post never got written, but I developed this skill. And essentially, this skill helps to interrupt the ruminating mind, meet it with compassion, connects to the emotion that's underneath, that's driving the rumination, and then release it out of the body. So it has developed over the last 3 years that I've been using it, and so I'm going to give you different ways that you can approach it, as well as some troubleshooting that I found, at least in my own experience of using this technique. So if you've ever tried to stop your mind from thinking, it's really hard. We know that we can't actively forcefully stop our minds from thinking, especially when they're ruminating. It's almost like telling a kid not to touch a hot stove. All they're gonna wanna do is touch the hot stove, right? So instead of having this internal power struggle with yourself, why not interrupt the thought and meet it with compassion? So what does this look like? For me, using this skill, I'll be playing something over and over and over and over and over again in my mind. I notice it, and I notice it much sooner now since practicing this. So I notice it, I take a beat, I do my best to ground myself. So that might just be as simple as feeling my feet on the ground. And then I say, letting go is really effing hard. Now, personally, I like to say the F word, but I know not everyone is comfortable with it, so I won't be saying it today on this video. But feel free to have fun with whatever word you want to choose. You also don't have to use this phrase, right? I recommend using it when starting off and then developing what works naturally for you. But if you are very intuitive and attuned and connected, you may instantly know, this is the phrase for me, and use it. I notice it, take a beat. Letting go is really effing hard. And we're meeting it with compassion, right? Compassion means to basically sit with one's suffering. So we're sitting with our own suffering. That it's really hard to sit with this mind ruminating on this conversation or these numbers or that thought. So we meet it with compassion. Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's hard to let go of that experience. It's hard to let go of that attachment to that number. And this is why I like using this phrase, because it can really kind of speak to many different scenarios and different types of brains and what is causing the rumination. So we've interrupted the thought and we've met it with compassion. Next, we connect with the emotion that's driving the thought. Now, this might be hard if you're disconnected from your emotions, and that's okay. If you're doing the work to actively connect with your emotions, amazing, and just trust that in time it'll come. But if you're not able to connect with the emotions, you can still complete this skill. So if you can connect to whatever is going on within, as you say, letting go is effing hard, connect with that sensation. I keep pointing to my chest because sometimes I feel it in my chest. You may feel it higher up, you may feel it in your abdomen, you may feel it elsewhere in the body. So connect to whatever that sensation is. They say that our emotions ride on the breath. So as we inhale through the nose, connecting to that emotion, we then release it out through the exhale, through an open mouth. If it's feeling like it's stuck in the body, you can also use your hands as part of the skill. So when you exhale, you can use your hands to release it out of your body. So you can exhale, and you can do it any which way. You can do it softly. You can add sound. Friends, do it whatever way it feels best. Now, the thing with this to know is that doing it once probably not going to help. You're going to have to do it over and over and over again, just with any practice, any skill. It oftentimes doesn't work the first time you do it. But if you feel connected to this skill, if you feel like it resonates on some level, keep doing it as it becomes part of your practice and can be a fantastic tool in your toolbox. Now, to that point, when I first started playing with this skill to see if it worked for me, I would have to do it a number of times to feel any sense of relief. So that's one thing that might come up, doing it and not noticing any benefits from it. Continue using it until you see if it does help, and maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. Another thing that can come up is that if it is connected to a very stressful experience, you may be in a stress response in which the breath is shallow and stuck in the chest. And ideally, you want to be using a diaphragmatic breath with this. So taking a nice diaphragmatic breath so the abdomen moves out on the inhale and back in on the exhale. Now, if you're struggling with body image, this can feel really extremely distressing to soften the abdomen and to feel it moving, to connect to it in any way. So if you're struggling with that, this might then be a little hard to practice if you find that is activating for you. Now, if you struggle with diaphragmatic breath, I will be doing a video on that, so definitely subscribe and hit the little bell because that is coming soon. But one way you can do it is to inhale through pursed lips as if you're drinking through a straw. And then exhale out through pursed lips as well as if you're blowing out a candle. And that can hopefully maybe help increase the level of diaphragmatic breathing as you do this technique. So friends, this again just speaks to find what works for you. But this is my skill. I call it ICER. I'm sure it exists somewhere in another form, but I like to call it ICER because the I means we interrupt. C, we meet it with compassion. C, we connect to the emotion. E, and R, we release it out of our body and our mind. If you find this helpful and find that a different approach works for you, please add it to the comments so that we can grow as a community and have different ideas and different approaches as we're all very different and unique beings. So until next time, friends, stay curious.